Okay, so here we go. Today, we're going to work together and we're going to analyze an advantages and disadvantages prompt. It's a very common essay type in tests. We're going to kind of like, unpack and work our way through an advantages and disadvantages essay. We're going to break down the task, take an introduction, body 1, body 2, and conclusion, step by step. Questions and answers at any moment. I'll do my best to answer the questions in the chat box. If I miss your question, forgive me. The chat box rolls really quickly, but I'll do my best to observe and answer the questions as they come in. And of course, on test day, we really never know what you can get. So you should go through all the essay types, understand the structure, understand the content that you should include, and how you should include position or opinion, because that will vary. Today, we're going to see that. Here we go. So this is the prompt we're going to be working with. It says, many governments invest a great deal of money in space research. What are the advantages and potential disadvantages of spending money on space exploration? Before we move on, should you give your position for this essay? Should you include your position? Is it important to have a position in this type of essay? Yes, a position, yes. Here we go. Let me share. I'm going to bring up now the band descriptors. These are the band descriptors. The band descriptors, include the content that you should include in your writing to get a good score. And if we take a look here at band descriptor for a 7, it says, presents a clear position throughout the response. It doesn't say, if the essay requires, no, a clear position. It's different than an opinion. And we're going to look into that today. So you should always include your position and at times your opinion, right? Okay, I hope that we've cleared that up and we can move on now. A position is what you understand as the question says. So what are the advantages and potential disadvantages of spending money on space research? So for sure, timing is essential. You should practice at home before the test to be sure that you can write your essay in 40 minutes. If not, where are you, taking more time? Where can you save time? Usually the introduction is a very good part to save time. The question says advantages and disadvantages, which means you must discuss at least 2 points, right, for each. Now, in order to do so, in our E2 test prep, in the practice session, there is one essay of each type for you to go through, analyze how it's been structured, and also a practice activity with the timer, with all, the layout of testing. Also, the assessments. So you should watch our live class, go to the study material, go to the practice, and then send in your assessment and wait for feedback. So it's kind of like a process. By then, when you receive feedback, you will be knowledgeable about this essay type and understand where you're going wrong, understand your weaknesses in order to improve, okay? So check out in our E2 test prep there, the study material, there's a lot going on there. So let's look into the structure. For each type of essay, there's kind of like a structure, but some parts are certain. 4 body paragraphs. Now, 5 body paragraphs, I know that in some occasions it's recommended if you're trying for, let's suppose, a 9, and depending the essay type. But trust me, if you do 4 strong paragraphs, you can ace your IELTS, certainly. The first part that we start with is the introduction. Now, of course, this is the basic structure. Some parts of the essay, they're quite stable, I would say, as introduction and conclusion. The background sentence, what is the function of the background sentence? It's to inform the reader the main topic. So it's kind of like this, hey reader, you're going to read about this. So that's the function of the background sentence, okay? It's the writer talking to the reader in a way of introducing what's going to happen, the big picture. And then the discussion is going to unfold as the essay develops. You reword the prompt. Why do you reword the prompt? Well, in real life, the reader does not read your prompt. The examiner will, but a reader reads the essay. So it's your job as the writer to inform the reader where the discussion is coming from. So that's why you reword the prompt. Then the thesis statement. That's when you inform the reader what will be developed in the essay. Okay, are we good to go? I don't see any questions yet, so I think that we're good to go, right? I'm even checking up in YouTube. It's nice to see everyone is introducing themselves. Wonderful. Okay, now body one. So, but before we move on, now comes the position part. So in this type of question, your position is what you consider to be the advantages or disadvantages. It's not asking you, oh, do you agree that there are advantages and disadvantages? No, it's not asking you that. It's asking you, it's informing you that there are advantages and disadvantages and asking you to explain, right? What are the disadvantages, advantages, and disadvantages? Okay. I think that Charlie can answer the question that's coming in from Fuad. Charlie, can you give me a hand there, please? Okay. So how do we do that? Here we go. So you will include your position. In this essay, I will outline what I consider to be the main advantages and disadvantages. However, I recommend that you do not use the word advantages and disadvantages because that's in the prompt. So in your answer, you would try to paraphrase that. Benefits, potential positive outcomes. So you should try to paraphrase that. This type of introduction we also use for problem and solution essays, because most of the time in problem solution, you have to outline your position. Are we good? Okay. One paragraph is going to deal with the advantages, another paragraph the disadvantages, and then the conclusion. The conclusion is kind of like a paraphrase of your introduction. They have to be connected. So let's take a look here how they're connected. If you look at the background sentence, it's to introduce the topic. And then in the conclusion, you should make a broad statement about what was discussed. In the thesis statement, you inform the reader what you will write about. So what you will write about is when you summarize your arguments. You should include your position in the conclusion as well. So you should include, there you go. So you can see how introduction and conclusion are connected, and that's the way it's meant to be. Okay, no new ideas in your conclusion. So now let's look into the planning. Planning is not a waste of time. It's a gain of time. In fact, I know that many students, they start to feel a little bit anxious because they feel that they should start writing right away, but that's not true, okay? Now, body one advantages, body two disadvantages. Okay, Shakir, the reading class, it's on Tuesdays, okay? I teach reading on Tuesdays. That was yesterday. So we're going to work with the double idea paragraph. If you're not familiar yet with the double idea structure, because you have single and double idea, in the E2 course materials, it's all there with methods and videos to help you understand. But the double idea is when you have to work with plural forms or with more than one idea. We're going to work with 2 double idea paragraphs because we have to talk about advantages and disadvantages. Umbrella sentence. This is a big question. What exactly is an umbrella sentence? What do you understand as an umbrella sentence? Those of you who have already started to study the structures, what do you understand should be included? Okay, so here, introducing, it's like a topic sentence. Excellent, Bota, that's it. So it's the topic sentence of the paragraph. It's called an umbrella sentence because imagine that it will cover everything that will be included in the paragraph. That's why it's nominated as an umbrella sentence, but in fact, it is the topic. The umbrella sentence, it's called umbrella because you have 2 ideas that you will develop, and that's what you should inform in your umbrella sentence, that more than one idea will be developed in this paragraph, okay? There you go, Deborah, you're on track, that's it. So Nina also, so introducing first that advantages will be developed. There you go, I can also see in YouTube, Fardit, you guys are right on track. Okay, lovely. Here we go, then I can move on. I feel that you guys are good now. Point 1, that means advantage 1, and we're going to extend. Now, remember that IELTS also, in order for you to get a good score, you need to present, support, and extend. So somehow here, either in point 1 or in the extend sentence, you have to include a support sentence. That could be done through an example, through evidence, but somehow, so you can have maybe in point 1, a complex sentence by explaining the point and adding a because. So you introduce the point and then you add a because to explain it. An explanation is a support. Or in the extend sentence, you use an example showing the effect of that example. So that's kind of like you include the present, support, and extend. And this is where many students lack when it comes to scoring in task achievement. So as you know, for IELTS, you will be scored in 4 different criterion. It's task achievement, coherence, lexical, and grammar. Task achievement, if you don't present, support, and extend, because if you check out the band descriptors, so presents, extends, and supports main ideas. So that's what we're going to do right now. So there's a question here. Body 1 umbrella should not contain body 2 argument. Oh, that's another important point. For IELTS, you never mix ideas in one paragraph. Each paragraph will deal with a specific idea, a unique. And in this case, advantages for one paragraph, disadvantages for the other paragraph. You don't mix advantages and disadvantages in one paragraph. Excellent. So also, you have to be careful not to list your ideas. It's very common that you list ideas, but you don't develop, okay? And that's how an IELTS expert can help you. A good English teacher can certainly help you, understand your grammar mistakes, but an IELTS specialist, we know how to adjust and include the information for you guys to ace your IELTS. So join us here and trust me, we can get you there. Now, in the next body paragraph, we're going to work with the same structure, but with disadvantages. So let's move on. We're going to plan body 1. Once again, planning is not a waste of time, it's a gain of time. So the first question that we ask ourselves is, what advantages are there to investing in space exploration? So the first one that I came up with are the byproducts that benefit people. How could we extend this idea? Okay, I can see some other ideas here, Deborah. So when we say byproducts, it's like lots of byproducts that we're, invented or developed for space exploration, we use them. So let's check out. When you conclude, okay, you don't really choose a side, okay, for advantages and disadvantages, because that's not the purpose. It's a position, and a position is when you express in the essay what you consider are advantages and disadvantages. You don't really choose which one is best. In some essays, there is, do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? Then you have to choose. But in this prompt, where it just asks what are the advantages and disadvantages, you do not choose. You express what you believe are advantages and disadvantages, okay? So, for example, sunglasses, medical devices, these are byproducts that were in fact originally developed for space exploration with some kind of technology, and then the technology was transferred to everyday equipment. The second point that we could also highlight, and once again, the ideas, they don't have to be groundbreaking, but they have to be reasonable, right? So we may find a new planet to live on, because we never know, right? The way that things are, developing here, it could be useful if we destroy Earth. So once again, the ideas, they don't have to be groundbreaking. It's not a PhD thesis, but they do have to be reasonable, right? Let me see what we have. What's the meaning of byproduct? Okay, who can help me out here? What is the meaning of byproduct? It's a product that was developed based on another one. There you go. Unintentional product. That's a good one. Okay, unintentional. That could be a good way to say it. Now we're going to move on to the disadvantages. So once again, we have sketched out now the umbrella sentence, of course. And in point one, what could be a disadvantage? Well, okay, here we go. If ideas are well organized, groundbreaking, would it cover mistakes such as spelling? No. In fact, there is kind of like, it's very clear to us that if you exceed and you have too many spelling mistakes, you will not achieve, let's suppose, a 7. Okay, because spelling, of course, it is really fundamental when it comes to English and to essay writing. 6.5, yet. 6.5, it's a score, You do have to follow and include. So the first disadvantage is that money is diverted from essential services. So for example, in the US, they spend lots of money in space exploration, but there are big social and health problems. Okay. There you go. You can create space traffic. That's it, Adil. Risky and dangerous. Kayaba, excellent. Also space junk, that's a problem. Okay, I can see that also in YouTube, you guys are explaining byproduct. That's great. So it's an end product that comes from something, excellent. So the umbrella sentence, Krish, we just discussed that at the beginning of the class, okay? It's the topic sentence. After space junk, how can we extend this? Well, it's dangerous and contaminating. So now we have our plan, we're ready. I recommend that maybe you take a quick screenshot or a picture of this, because we're going to use this information to develop the essay. So there we go. That's it, Gina. So it's risky. Now, on test day, and even when you're practicing at home, you should and you can, or you can and you should, use up to 5 minutes for this part. Because once you have a plan, when you're developing your plan, you're generating ideas. So your mind is really busy, generating ideas. Once this is done and you start writing your essay, your mind can be transferred now to vocabulary, structure, so it's free from generating ideas. If not, when you're writing your essay, you're generating ideas, sentence structure, vocabulary, there's a lot going on. By doing the planning, you free your mind from generating ideas, and then you can focus on sentence structure and vocabulary. That is a great advantage, and trust me, your essay will be much stronger in terms of ideas, presenting, developing, and supporting ideas. There you go, Niraj. That's a good one. Okay, so moving on. Once again, as I mentioned, there's a method video for each type of essay. How to, sketch it, how the format that you should follow, if it's a single or a double idea paragraph, how to develop and include your position or your opinion. So check out the methods video. They're really helpful. Here we go, sample. We're going to start breaking it down piece by piece. So the first one is the background sentence, when we inform the reader the main idea here. The main idea, space exploration, right? So humankind is curious by nature, and it is this curiosity that drives our fascination with outer space. Okay, so humankind, and we are very, curious. That's a nice sentence. Of course, if you can't come up with something with so much like a compound sentence, don't get stuck in the background sentence. Go with a simple sentence, and that's fine as long as you introduce the main idea and you continue developing. Many students, they feel that they have to start their essay with a compound, complex sentence. Not necessarily, okay? Simple sentences are very effective too, because they show the point clearly, what's going on. So here we go. The next sentence, we're going to reword the prompt. I can see already some students sending in some writings. That's wonderful. I love to see a nice active chat box. So globally, there are several countries that spend billions annually on space programs. So a little bit of paraphrasing there, instead of space. So many governments invest a great deal of money in space research. So we're kind of like telling the reader the main point and what the essay is about, so that the reader knows where the discussion is coming from. That some countries spend money on space programs, and why do they do that? Now, in this essay, I will outline what I consider to be two main benefits that can be gained from spending on such research, as well as some drawbacks of this investment. So it's what you consider to be, it's what you believe are the advantages. It doesn't mean that you agree, you disagree, that countries should or should not, invest money. It's simply straightforward. What are the advantages and disadvantages that stem from, space research? Excellent. So sentence by sentence, we're good to go. Beautiful. In some cases, once again, you may have the question, do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? If this is the case in the thesis sentence, in this last sentence, this is where you include your opinion already. You start already informing what is your opinion when it's requested. You don't wait to only reveal your opinion in the conclusion. You start from the introduction. So we have our introduction. Once again, the introduction is quite stable. If you're struggling with timing, the introduction will be the best place for you to practice and invest to reduce mastering the introduction. It will reduce the time that you spend writing your introduction. Here we go. This is our plan for body one. We're going to start with the umbrella sentence. Certainly, space exploration can bring many positive impacts. once again, many students feel that the umbrella sentence has to be that complex, structure. A simple sentence, as I said, many times is very effective as well. And don't forget that we need sentence variety. So simple sentences count as sentence variety, right? Let me just check up how the questions are. Should I, explain? Okay, so yeah. So there are some questions here regarding the, I'm just going to here. So the last sentence, which is the thesis statement in the introduction, definitely position or opinion should be included. In this case, it's an opinion, it's a position, sorry. Body one, umbrella sentence, here we go. I'm just double checking. Can we use indeed in place of certainly? You can, it's fine. Now the next sentence, when we're going to introduce the point. So perhaps the most significant ones, ironically, are the byproducts of the technological developments. Now, ironically, this is what we call an interrupting phrase, okay? So it comes in between commas, and this is, you can use it in particular, in general. So you can try to emphasize, to bring in a little bit of, personality even to your writing. So you can include what we call an interrupting phrase, and that will come in between commas, okay? As ironically does. Now, everyday items such as sunglasses, non-stick cookware, and important medical devices like pacemakers all came about thanks to research and development in the space field. So you can see that we present examples such as sunglasses and non-stick cookware, but then an idea to explain why we are listing these products. They are the result of research and development originally made for space research or for space travel, okay? Let me just check here. Can we use verify? Verily instead. I would not go with some. That's another, point that I'd like to just clear up here. I know that you may see around saying, oh, you have to include difficult, complex, and different words. Not really. If we look at the band descriptors, it says accurate and precise vocabulary. So accurate and precise vocabulary doesn't mean crazy words, okay? It means accurate and precise. Vocabulary that is varied, so try to paraphrase synonyms, but at the same time that they are on spot in terms of accuracy. And in terms of accuracy, we don't use, even if you read a PhD thesis, you're going to realize that, okay, there may be some technical words, but we don't use, crazy stuff to explain our ideas. The non-stick, it's a byproduct. Remember, it's something, the original idea came of a product that would not stick, and then it was transferred to cooking equipment, okay? Packaged food, there you go, Deborah. There's so many good ideas here. You guys are really good in the chat box. Congratulations on that. You're right on spot with, you guys would write this essay very well, I'm sure. So now that we have here already the umbrella sentence, point one, and we have extended point one. Now we're going to go to another plus. And this is a point that many of you may feel that you can put furthermore, moreover. When we teach general English, we teach you to use these words, moreover, furthermore, in addition. However, for IELTS, you should avoid. For the fact that if you check the band descriptors, once again, it says mechanical markers. That's the expression that they use. And why are these considered mechanical markers? Because they're kind of like standardized. Okay, so in addition, furthermore, principally if they're at the beginning of the sentence. So reconsider, and try to tackle and use other phrases that are equivalent in meaning. So in this case, we put another plus is the benefit of humanity of finding another habitable planet. So instead of saying moreover, we put another plus, and then we develop it. Can cell phone connectivity? Probably, Ashwani, I believe so. I think that all of this technology that was developed for communication most likely originally came. And once again, that's another detail. It doesn't have to be true for IELTS. There's no lie detector, or, they don't verify the information. It's not like an essay that you're doing for university where the information has to be verified with sources. IELTS is testing your skills in developing ideas, putting ideas together. So even if it's not accurate, that's okay. It just has to be reasonable, okay? Indeed, if we continue to deplete our planet, resources, our natural resources, or pollute our own environment, the money spent on discovering a new planet or on creating livable spaces on Mars, for instance, will be well worth it. So what would I like to point out in this sentence? What are other examples for another plus? You can also go another, you can go adding to this. That's another option. Okay, another positive point. Conditional sentences, if, so it will add to sentence variety, remember that. Also, you will see here the word for instance, it's in the middle. It has been fit in the middle. Instead of beginning the sentence with for instance, which once again, it is kind of mechanical, we include it in the middle of the sentence. So that shows that as a writer, you're more skilled, okay? So this is paragraph 1. I love to see you guys reacting. I know that you guys are, so that these reactions that you guys send me, I just love it. Thank you, because I know that you guys are here with me and working together. Can I use terminologies that are embedded in social sciences, such as sociology? In accurate way, of course. If it fits in, definitely, you can. Perfect, for sure. Okay. Okay, there's a good comment here. So all cohesive devices such as, moreover, furthermore, in addition, they are considered mechanical. That's it, okay? They are considered for IELTS. If you're doing an essay that's supposed for university, for an assignment, not. But IELTS has this, and we're just kind of like, following the band descriptors. It's interpreted that these standardized words, they are equivalent to mechanical, to being mechanical as standardized, okay? It's an interpretation of the band descriptors. Wonderful. I'm not sure what you mean, James, right, when you say a concession. So for example, you could go something like, despite the benefits, there are also drawbacks that can result from space research. Yes, that kind of concession you can, okay? I have not got it yet. How and where to use report or statistical data in a paragraph to back up my argument. So, Ali, that's something that to a certain extent, it should be avoided because it becomes kind of like standardized as well. According to research developed at Harvard, it's much more valuable if you have a nice example that you can, reveal and explain your point than only using statistical data to back up, okay? The last slide, there you go, Adil. So you should really, you can see that here the examples, we try to bring in detailed examples Now, if you wish to use statistical and things like that, you should go, for example, in Canada, a research developed with teenagers aged 15 to 17, and then you explain a little bit more. Let's suppose it's about video game, playing video games. That can be a good support. But once again, detail it, where, the age group, try to be detailed and more specific, and not only according to a research developed at Harvard, like we see sometimes. Okay, so now the first one. So this is kind of like a concession sentence, in fact. So we go. Despite these benefits, so connecting body 1 to body 2, there are also serious negative outcomes that can result from state spending on space research. Once again, really on topic, connected to the prompt, because ultimately at the end, you have to answer the question, regardless the essay type. By the end of your essay, the examiner has to have an answer to the question asked, okay? So now we go to the first point. Money can be diverted. So the primary one, so instead of using firstly is quite mechanical as well. Secondly, so we go, the primary one, it's kind of like a paraphrase to firstly. The primary one is the diversion of funds from vital public services like healthcare and education. So yeah, that's it. So there are, however, some drawbacks. That's good too. Excellent, Tayaba. Now we're going to go to our extend sentence. In the US, for example, despite rocketing numbers of homeless people and prohibitively expensive hospital care, the government continues to pour money into space programs. Okay, now, for example, can you realize that also it was shifted? It's a good idea, okay, to shift instead of saying, for example, in the USA, despite rocketing numbers of homeless people and prohibitively expensive hospital care, I got stuck there. The government continues to pour money into space programs. So it's the extend sentence with an example being supported by a consequence, an effect. So kind of like this in your mindset. In the US, for example, despite rocketing numbers of homeless people, the government continues to pour money. So when you bring in this example, you're kind of like showing also an effect of it. That's clear now? Excellent. I love to see how you guys are, working with each other in the chat box as well. Here too in YouTube. Where can you watch yesterday's teaching? So for yesterday, it's in our, if I'm not mistaken, right, Charlie? It's in E2 test prep, right? We didn't live stream anything yesterday. Okay. In academic and general training, written is the same. For task 2, yes, it's the same. But for task 1, it changes, okay? And then now point number 2. There is also, here we go. That's another option. There is also, I forgot about this one, the problem of space junk. So that's another way of saying in addition. Now we're going to explain. When rockets and satellites launch and fall into disuse, they become part of the litter that is already cluttering up space. This debris poses potential risks to future missions, as well as simply contributing to the global pollution problem. Okay. So here is our body 2. Nice and put together. Point 1, extend. So present, support, and extend. It's all here. But we talk about negative outcomes and about the state spending. So we don't even mention what are the points that we're going to develop, only that they are negative outcomes. That's why we don't include, because if not, we would have to include the healthcare, education, also the pollution. We just in the topic sentence, we inform that negative outcomes can result from the state's spending on space research. So it's connected back to the question, okay? In the last conclusion sentences, can we start sentence by transition words like hence, thus, as per the above discourse? You should avoid that. And how can you avoid that? Use sentence inversion, okay? Kind of like, because once again, it is kind of like mechanical and it doesn't sound natural according to the above discourse. We would not use that, okay? It's not natural. Is vocabulary necessary to include an academic paper? Definitely. But once again, accurate and precise vocabulary. So I'll give you a quick example. Let's suppose you're developing an essay talking about public transport. Okay. Oh, yes, public transport is very good. That's very bad, in fact, right? Public transport is cost benefit, punctual, safe. So look how this changes when we're talking about precise vocabulary, okay? To recapitulate, we would not use that, okay? That's not common. To conclude, yes, or in conclusion. Some expressions, they're best off keeping it simple and straightforward. So here comes our conclusion. In conclusion, space research can have life-changing impacts here on Earth, definitely. So that kind of like connects back to how the byproducts and how we developed can influence and help, population. To sum up, no, once again, keeping it sometimes standardized expressions, they're effective. In conclusion, there's nothing wrong with using in conclusion. You don't really have to be creative here. This is not where you should be creative. You should be creative in presenting, supporting, and extending your ideas, and not in conclusion by sum up, okay? There you go. It does, however, come at a potentially huge cost if a nation does not prioritize its spending and neglects the environmental fallout of missions. So kind of like connecting back, first, the positive, the life-changing as an advantage, and then the negative, the disadvantages. And look how, however, is inserted again in the middle instead of beginning. However it does, because that would be kind of like mechanical, okay? Now, in this conclusion, the personal opinion position is missing. Definitely it should be here. A rebuttal sentence, not really sure what that would mean exactly at this point, because sometimes these expressions, they come from specific, courses that use, like we use umbrella sentence, let's suppose, okay, as topic sentence, but because it covers all the elements that will be discussed in the paragraph. So here we should definitely add, where could we add the personal opinion? I believe, you can go, I believe, comma. It does, however, come. That could be a good place to put that in, okay? Once again, concluding instead of in conclusion, not needed. Once again, this is not the place to be creative and to try to change. The real change, and it will be effective when you are developing your ideas, showing sentence structure, accurate grammar. This is not going to change your score. In conclusion, concluding, trust me, that's not going to change really your score, okay? Before if, okay, it does, however, come at a potentially huge cost. I believe if a nation, there you go. That's a good one too. So once again, now comes the full essay. Here, what is it? I'm going to just shut down my screen so you guys can take a nice picture of this. I recommend that you kind of like even use this as exercise to read out loud, highlight good words like perhaps. Perhaps is a very good word that you can include in other essays. You have your nice synonyms of advantages, so you can list them. Positive outcomes, benefits. No problem with me in the picture. Okay, there we go now. Here we go. So I'm back. Thank you. So our mock tests. Why are mock tests really helpful? Well, two. I can give you two reasons. The first one is that you really see the full scope of what is an IELTS test. Trust me, it's almost like a marathon. You sit there for 3 hours doing reading, listening, and writing. So it is kind of like a marathon. You add your personal opinion or personal position in the conclusion always, okay? You always need to add a personal opinion, a personal position in the conclusion. Yes, always. Because once again, in the band descriptors, it says, presents a clear position throughout the response. So throughout means introduction, even body paragraph, if you can include there, and certainly in the conclusion. So mock tests, we have 2 at E2. So that's great. As I said, what's the advantage? You get the full scope, you know, what it's like to sit there and really tackle the 3 hours. And it gives you a very clear, you know, position of timing. So doing one, because many of you guys are practicing writing isolated, listening isolated, reading isolated. But when you put that together in 3 hours, that can really be a challenge, trust me. So let me just double check here my YouTube channel, how it's coming along, if there are any questions that I've been missing. Okay. In the last conclusion sentence. So we do have here, you're facing difficulty in philosophical argumentative essays. So that's not really an issue that we should be concerned with IELTS. It's not philosophical. It's a little bit more straightforward, okay? So I think Charlie can help me out with these answers of, will this class recording be available later, and so on, okay? So, of course, check out at E2 Test Prep, there's a lot of material there to help you guys be better prepared, trust me. And I'm also there, you know, so we can meet again in the live classes, in reading and writing as well. So there is another live class coming up that will be, you know, transmitted in, will be broadcast in YouTube, and that's in April. So I hope to see you there. For you guys in YouTube, thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you guys in our E2 channel. Join our family. I love having, you know, students, newcomers and oldcomers. That's wonderful. As I said, there are newcomers and oldcomers here. Thank you so much, guys. I can see you guys, you know, from what I understand, this class was, I hope it was helpful for you guys to understand a little bit more the structure and how to tackle task 2, advantages and disadvantages. Remember, there are different types of essays, and at E2 each week in the live classes, we discuss one different type of essay and we write together in the master class. So as you guys send in your writings, I try to give you feedback either in the chat box or even live on the screen. Thank you so much once again. I hope to see you guys soon. Keep up your hard work. Remember, persistence is the best for you guys to achieve the scores you need. Have good resources, strong resources, reliable resources, and practice. But once again, feedback. You need an IELTS specialist to check up on your work, because we know what is needed, not only in terms of grammar, but also in terms of structure and content. Guys, I would love to stay, and I hope once again that this was helpful. And I'll see you guys soon.